It's time to talk sports. It's Hacksaw's Headlines, a panorama of the world of sports, stories, comments, and opinions. Now, here's iconic sports talk show host Lee Hacksaw Hamilton and co-host John Riley.
Who wants to talk sports on a Monday? We do, you do. From the Dixie Line Lumber and Home Center studios in San Diego, coming off a great sports weekend, we welcome you to our Monday bonus podcast. This podcast brought to you by Dixie Line Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego, and by Our Lads Draft Guide. You like the NFL? Here comes the draft. You love college football? We invite you to subscribe to Our Lads Draft Guide. Good afternoon, everyone. This is Lee Hacksaw Hamilton in studio. John Riley, my co-host, will join us. We're doing something a bit different today. Today is NFL Draft Preview Day. We're doing a doubleheader. We're going to do a draft preview show first. We'll take a break. Then we'll come back with the second half of the podcast. John Riley will join us with his opinions from left field in the second half of the podcast. Let's welcome in one of the editors of Our Lads Draft Guide. It's Jon Cooper. He is with us from the Midwest. Busy week for him. This podcast, of course, revolves around the National Football League draft and Our Lads Draft Guide. As I've said, if you like football, you need to get this. Just go to ourlads.com, get the subscription. It's easy. Get on the mailing list. You'll get the PDF file. The book is out, and they'll get it to you lickety-split. Jon Cooper, good afternoon. It's great to have you with us. NFL draft is so important. At the end of the day, I think this is the most unique draft we've had because for the first time since 1967, when they put this format into place, every team retains its own number one pick. Nobody has got multiple number ones. That's stunning. The other thing, historically, the NFL draft, all the years you and I have gotten together, John, on our draft preview shows, there's always been about the quarterbacks and who's going where. And we got one quarterback at the top, and the rest of it seems to be falling down the board. This is a defensive draft. It's a big boy draft. I find this the most unique draft that I think I've covered in a long time. Your perspective, if you do this on an annual basis, what's it been like for you?
Well, you know, there was a year that Kenny Pickett came out. He was the only quarterback drafted in the first round, so there's some similarities there. As far as that goes, it wasn't a great year for quarterbacks. Now, we're used to pretty good years for quarterbacks the last 3 years. You know, you had Jaden Daniels at the top last year, Caleb Williams, Drake May. You had 3 guys go 1, 2, 3. And year before that, C.J. Stroud. I mean, so we've been spoiled. But the truth of the matter is there's 2 drafts. There's a quarterback draft and there's the draft of everybody else. And so some of these quarterbacks get valued, higher than they are as a football player because they're a quarterback. So, this year I'm not sure that's going to be the case.
Is this the most unique?
I agree with you.
Is this a most unique year? And is it because there's so many different types of general managers that everybody's retained their own number one pick and nobody's dealing number one picks away? Or is that all about to change come Thursday?
I don't think, you just never know what's going to happen. The one thing about this draft, I think a lot of people would like to trade down because there's a lot of talent in this draft, and it's deep, especially on defense. That's where you're going to find some really good players. The defensive line, defensive tackle, interior defenders in particular. You might be able to get a starter in just about every round. There's that talented. 40 interior defenders at the combine. I don't know if I've ever seen that before. And we have about 33, 34 of them at draftable grades. So a lot of talent there.
Yeah, I went through a whole series of the top mock drafts that I pay attention to, John, and I did an average out. 18 players on defense in the first round, 6 offensive linemen. That's 24 of the first 32 picks in the mock drafts were non-skilled guys. I shook my head and said, wow, this is going to be a different draft.
Well, George Young used to say, if you want to win, you need to dance with the elephants.
Big boy draft. That's what
right.
It is.
You got it.
His name is Jon Cooper. He's one of the editors of Our Lads Draft Guide. We're going to go position by position. He's going to give us some bullet points. This is the first half of a doubleheader podcast broadcast with us here. John will be with us for the first half hour. John, let's start with quarterbacks. I'd say quarterback derby, but it's not necessarily that. It sure looks like Cam Ward has rocketed up. Shedeur Sanders seems to be like a cement block dropping. You've got Jackson Dart from Ole Miss, who seems to have making big gains. And then the wild card one to me is JALEN MILROE, who had a great sophomore season, then a substandard junior season, all of a sudden has kind of come back in the eyes of a lot of people. Go ahead, break down the quarterbacks as Our Lads Draft Guide sees them.
I think what happened too with some of these quarterbacks, particularly Dart and Milroe, their end of season performances, were uneven. And Milroe has struggled with some areas, accuracy, things of that nature. But he's a phenomenal athlete. And somebody's going to look at that and say, you know what, this could be the next Lamar Jackson. And I don't know that he'll get drafted in the first round. Realistically, I think it's more likely that he's going to go lower than that. But this is a great athlete. I'm starting to kind of going 4 on up. And, Jackson Dart is a guy that really struggled down the stretch this year. He really didn't look very good. And he's playing in an offense that traditionally has not produced a lot of great NFL quarterbacks, because it's a kind of a one-read type thing, horizontal, vertical. Dart has the tools, however. He's a good quarterback because he can make all the NFL throws. He just didn't have a great end of the season. So he's still a good player. He's still a quality. He's got a chance to be a good starter in the NFL. But one thing that a general manager once told me, you never know what you've got in a quarterback till you get them in your building. And that's going to be the case with a couple of those guys. Sanders is a guy that we at one point thought was the top quarterback in this draft, but there's a couple of things that concern us, and one of them is pocket presence. He's got a great arm. He can get the ball outside the numbers as good as anybody with a clean pocket. Very accurate as well. He's not a creator. He's not going to make a lot of plays with his feet. He's got probably a little more ability to do that than he's shown. He has taken a lot of sacks. I think 40-plus sacks this past season. And some of that's the offensive line, but some of that's his lack of pocket presence, his lack of ability to move and make a play on the move. But like I said, clean pocket, he's really good. Cam Ward is probably the best combination of all the traits you want in this draft as a quarterback. He can move in the pocket. He's got very good arm strength. He's an accurate passer. He's got some issues in the pocket too. Sometimes he'll bail out when he needs to stand in, and there's still some work to be done. But as far as the top of the line quarterback, as far as athleticism and arm strength, that's the guy.
In terms of Cam Ward, gunslinger, more polished quarterback than anybody realizes. Is he more instantly ready than any of the other guys at all?
Well, no, he's got some work to do. And you said the word gunslinger, and that's a very accurate approach. He will take some chances throwing the ball downfield. He will throw it into coverage. He will move around and make a bad decision sometimes. But the talent is what you're looking at. You get him in the building. You can work with him. Somebody, he's probably the first pick in the draft. Tennessee probably believes in their research with this individual that, hey, we can take this guy and we can mold him into an NFL starter. And so I think that's what you're looking at. Do the Tennessee Titans believe that their quarterback infrastructure, as far as coaching is concerned, and their system can fix whatever issues he's got coming out of college, and we can make him a quality NFL starter?
Okay, we go from quarterbacks with Jon Cooper from Our Lads Draft Guide. Second position, running back. You got ASHTON JEANTY from Boise State, illustrious career. You add into that the kid from North Carolina who seems to have really grown in stature with his workouts, OMARRION HAMPTON. And you got SKATTEBO, who came out of nowhere from Division I AA and put together a year and a half of really great football at Arizona State. I talked to NFL people. I said, compare ASHTON JEANTY to somebody we know. And they said, LaDainian Tomlinson. That's a pretty good comparison. So what does Our Lads Draft Guide say about those top 3 running backs?
Well, JEANTY is a difference maker. And we think he's a top 10 pick. Somebody's going to take him from 4 all the way down to 10. We think one of those teams is going to take him, because it's hard to find a guy like that. The guy that's got great speed, he can catch the ball. He's a breakaway back. He can break tackles. His yards after contact has been the tops in the collegiate football the past 2 seasons. It's hard to find a package like that. He's not the biggest guy in the world, but he is tough. He's a tough inside runner, and he can get outside and he can make plays, in space. He's going to make you miss with agility in traffic, but he can also run through tackles. Hard to find that combination.
Hampton, North Carolina.
Well, Hampton is a guy, the guy who does running backs for us has, he's been talking about him since September. And he said he is the number 2 guy. And if Ashton JEANTY wasn't there, he'd be number 1 for sure. And he's not that far away. He's got good speed, got good hands. He's a good dual threat back. He's not just a speed guy. He's not just a power guy. He can play football, and he's got good hands. And the speed, obviously, is showing up. You can see it on the field, and you can see it on the stopwatch, too. Really good football player. And we think he's a first-round pick. Somebody's going to take him. We think a team like Denver is going to look at him, and there may be somebody even higher up than that. So
and SKATTEBO from Arizona State, bit of an old throwback guy.
He's what we call a try-hard guy. He's the kind of guy you want close to the goal line because he's going to do everything he can to get that yard. He's a good receiver out of the backfield. He shows decent agility in traffic. I mean, he's not a great super athlete, but his effort, his second effort, he gets yards after contact, and he's surprisingly good receiver. We like him a lot. We think he's more of a second-round pick, second day type guy, but somebody's going to have a really good football player in their running back room.
We go from all that. Let's talk about the wide receiver group. This is not what I'd call a deep, deep group, but boy, the guys at the top of the board are really good. So let's just talk about McMillan from Arizona, Matt Golden, who did really well, I thought, at the end of the season from Texas, and EGBUKA, the second wide receiver in the mix for the champion Ohio State Buckeyes. How do you rank them?
Well, you got them 1, 2, 3, McMillan, Golden, and EGBUKA. McMillan has got good height, reasonably good speed. He's a good route runner. He can be a difference maker too. And, he's going to be a number 1 receiver on some team. And that's the thing that we like about him. We have him at the top of the heap. We think he's potentially in the top 10. Very good hands, got a good catch radius. He's not Marvin Harrison Jr. from last year, but he is a, very good receiver. Golden is the speed guy, the speed number 1 receiver that you want on your team. He's not the biggest guy. He can be a slot receiver. He can be an outside receiver. He's a good route runner. Speed and hands are the thing that sets him apart from some of the other guys. EGBUKA is a really nice combination of all those things. He's not the fastest. He's got great hands. He's a good route runner, reasonable size. We think he's more of a later first-round pick, but quality player.
We move to tight ends. What a unique mix of talent Ty Warren, Penn State, has delivered. Colston Loveland seemed to have a breakout season at the University of Michigan. And you go to the smaller college ranks, you can find really quality players there. The kid out of Bowling Green, Harold FANNIN. How unique, how dangerous, how dynamic do you think Tyler Warren is?
Incredible. Top 10 first-round guy as far as we're concerned. He may drop a little bit just because of the position of tight end. But I don't see him getting, past the first, maybe top 12. Somebody in that top 12 is going to take him. Somebody say he's going to fall to Indianapolis. Boy, I'll be surprised if he goes that low. If he goes down to 14. But this kid is a physical tight end. He can block. He can catch. Run after the catch is tremendous. He can break tackles. You want to line him up in fullback and have him block, you can do that. This is one of the better tight ends that we've seen. We like him an awful lot. Loveland is a great receiver. So he's going to make somebody's receiver room better. A team that likes to use a lot of 12 personnel, 2 tight ends, he is going to be a great fit. He's not a great blocker, but he's a decent position blocker. He's a good move blocker. So if you're using 12 personnel, 2 tight ends on the field, and you want to run the ball and you want to run power and you want to do some things in the passing game as well, this is going to be a really, really nice player to get. FANNIN is a receiver. He's a developing blocker. He's a really good receiver. He's a little bit raw. You know, and so he's going to be a little down the line in a very good year of tight ends. You know, he's going to be a second-day pick as far as we're concerned, but he's a good football player in a good class of tight ends.
I use the phrase big boy draft. That's the next category. Let's talk about the offensive line. Will Campbell from LSU, spectacular player. Armand MEMBOU from Missouri just seems to have gone up in the eyes of an awful lot of people. Kelvin Banks from Texas seems to have positioned himself somewhere late in the first round. And the kid we saw at San Diego State that developed into a pretty good tackle before he got hurt at Ohio State, Josh Simmons. You want to run through the laundry list of names there, John?
Well, there's potentially 6 tackles that could go in the first round and maybe a guard. And the thing that I like about the top 3 guys is all 3 of them are versatile. They're athletic. If you want to move them inside to play guard, they're physical enough to do that. Campbell is the hot name. Campbell's the top 10 pick. Most likely Campbell's the guy that, you know, people are a little concerned about as far as length. Can he really be a left tackle? On film, it sure looks like it. We don't see anything wrong with him as far as playing left tackle. But, you know, some NFL scouts look at him and say, you know, and coaches, but, you know, we're used to guys with a little bit more length. And but you know what? If that's the case, you can slide him inside to guard, and he'll be a blue chipper there. MEMBOU is another guy that is very athletic. He's a right tackle. So a lot of people will say, well, can we move him and play him at left tackle, never having done it? And I think he's athletic enough to do that. I think he can play both tackle spots, and I also think he's another guy that can slide inside and play guard. Same thing with Kelvin Banks. He's a left tackle, very athletic. He doesn't have the height you typically look at as an ideal left tackle, but he can play. He can move. He can block in space. He can get to the second level. We like him a lot, and we think he can play, you know, guard or tackle. The guy who does offensive lineman for us, we've debated him, and we've said, you know what? Somebody's going to take him that maybe needs a guard and maybe needs some versatility in their offensive line, and he's going to go somewhere. You know, we think he could go higher to more like the mid-first round rather than late, but it could be late. So there's a lot of tackles there. You know, Simmons, Eritrea, good player. Simmons injured last year, so you didn't really get to see him much. He's a good left tackle. He's got good range. Punch and mirror is solid. The injury is a concern because he's had some issues the last couple seasons.
Okay, we get to halftime. Our NFL draft preview is underway. Jon Cooper, draft editor, Our Lads Draft Guide, is with us. And just a reminder, NFL draft is coming up, starts Thursday, goes Friday, goes Saturday. You can still get your subscription to Our Lads Draft Guide just by going online, ourlads.com. You can subscribe. They'll get you the PDF copy immediately. Your chance then to get the breakdowns of all the players, all the different schools, the depth charts of all the NFL teams and their specific needs. It's a must win. It's 122 pages of data about the NFL draft. Go to ourlads.com to order up the draft guide, PDF form available at this hour. It's yours just by making the call now. Our Lads Draft Guide. This podcast also brought to you by Dixieline Lumber and Home Centers, 9 locations to serve you in San Diego. You've got projects, they've got materials. You need ideas, they can be your best friend and your consultant. Build it, fix it. We guarantee you will enjoy it in 2025, thanks to Dixieline Lumber. And a programming note, we're doing a doubleheader. We're doing a split podcast. Jon Cooper staying with us for the first half of the podcast. Then we'll bring back the second half. John Riley will join me from left field with his opinions. Second half of our podcast talking baseball, NFL, NBA, NHL, and soccer. All right, Jon Cooper, let's move to the second half of our NFL draft preview, and we will start with the guys on the edge. We're talking about the speed rushers, and obviously Abdul Carter has come out of nowhere in a different position at Penn State. And the controversial kid who's got talent, Mike Green from Marshall University, seem to be the 2 big defensive ends out there. Your thoughts on those 2?
Well, it's a good year for edge rushers. There's a few more guys that are going to go in the first round than those 2, but Abdul Carter some think he's the best player in the draft. We like him an awful lot. He's been a former off-the-ball linebacker who moved to the edge. In fact, when we were watching him early in the season, boy, I don't know about this move. You know, he might have been better off the ball and just blitzing him from the inside and outside. And as the season wore on, we saw a guy transform into an elite edge defender. It was almost unbelievable to see how good he became by the end of the season. We watched all the game film and it broke it all down. And I'll tell you what, solid player. He's quick, he's fast, he can bend, he can make tackles, and he can chase across the field. You can still see that off the ball linebacker ability in the way he plays, pursuing from the backside, coming off the edge. Terrific player. He's going to make the team that drafts him a really, really happy team, I'll tell you what. And they're going to be a lot better with him on their team. Mike Green is a little bit raw in some ways, but yet from as an as a guy from a group of 4 or group of 5 prospect team, not a power 4 team. You'd say, well, he isn't playing against the best competition. But then you look at what he did at the Senior Bowl practices against the good tackles. He was terrific. He's really smart. He's got a great array of moves, terrific arsenal. He had 17.5 sacks last year. But not only that, his pressure rate is terrific. He's not the quickest at the ball, but yet once he gets going, his speed to pressure rate is really good. And he's smart, good football IQ. We had a chance to see him at the Senior Bowl up close and personal, and we really liked what we saw. And, he's I'm not sure where he's going to go in the first round, but he's going to be in there anywhere from, 10 down to 25, depending upon how the team views him and how they look at some of the other edge rushers, in the first round.
Okay, let's go to the next category. Edge rushers, that could be stand-up guys, that could be linebackers, but my goodness, speed kills. And there's a load of those guys. Jalen Walker, MYKELL Williams, JIHAAD Campbell, all out of the Deep South. What do you think?
Well, Williams is, more of your traditional edge rusher. He's hand in the dirt and upright, type of guy. He can play a wide 9. You can slide him down inside the nickel too. He's a physical presence. He can play the run as a 5 technique, and he's a really good edge pass rusher with nice bend and flex. Jalen Walker and JIHAAD Campbell, we have as linebackers, and some people are going to draft both of those guys as possibly an off-the-ball linebacker, but they also could very easily be edge or SAM linebackers in a 3-4 scheme and edge rushers in your nickel package. Both of those guys are works in progress. Tremendous athletes. Walker has some Tremaine Edmonds-like play, or not Walker, Campbell, excuse me, in terms of how he plays. He can play off the ball. He's good in coverage. He's got some work to do fundamentally as far as taking on blocks. And, he hadn't played as much on the edge as Walker has. Walker was an edge rusher who became an off-the-ball guy this year. And probably a little bit more off the ball than off the edge, but used sometimes as what we call as a joker, where he'll line up off the ball and he'll blitz from different gaps. Very effective. He's a speed to power guy. He's a little bit controversial. I think he's polarizing as far as where he's going to play, how good he really is. He's a little undersized for the edge, and he doesn't have quite the instincts to be an elite off-the-ball guy. So there's going to be some work to do fundamentally with Jalen Walker. But he is a phenomenal athlete with great traits.
Okay, let's move inside. Very good at the top. Bulk and beef. The couple of guys are Michigan men, one from Ole Miss, and then DERRICK Harmon from the University of Oregon. This looks like a really good defensive group.
It's terrific. We think this is maybe one of the best defensive tackle groups, interior defender group we've ever seen. Mason Graham is a high hustle, high motor player that makes plays all over the field. I mean, he's not the greatest athlete in the world. He's good enough. Let's put it that way. You combine that with his effort, his motor, and his ability to use his hands and chase and play laterally and push the pocket, and he will make tackles. He's a tough guy to single block because he's going to find a way to get off that block and make a play. Walter Nolen has some similar traits. He could actually line up consistently as a 5 technique if you wanted to in a 3-4, and then move him around your front. He's quick off the ball. He's got enough bend and flex to turn the corner as a 5 technique. Just a terrific football player. DERRICK Harmon, you could say some of the same things about him. He's got a great speed to pressure rate. He's physical, playing the run. He has a 3 technique. He can get off blocks. He's also tough to single block, and he'll give you some really nice interior pass rush.
Okay, let's move to the secondary. Only words I can use to describe after reading everything you wrote in Our Lad's Guide. Deep, really deep group of athletes, whether it starts with the Heisman Trophy hero and Travis Hunter, then it goes to Will Johnson, it goes to the Texas Longhorn Baron, it goes to Trey Amos, goes to Malachi Starks. Man, there's a lot of DBs are going to go in that first round.
Yeah, and I think you're looking at first round picks with all 5 of those guys in our minds. Travis Hunter is an interesting prospect. He's a 2-way player. He wants to play both. And, you got to go back a long ways to find a really good bona fide 2-way player. The last one I can think of that wasn't just situational was Roy Green. That's how far back you go, and that was only for 1 season. And but Travis Hunter, I think, is a guy that can do it. If I'm a coach, I'm going to have him play corner because he's really good at that. And he's going to be a situational receiver for me. He's going to be maybe the 3rd receiver, maybe the dime receiver. And in my package, maybe in my 10 personnel package, but he'll get significant reps as a receiver because he's really good. But as a corner, he's a great zone defender. He's smart, solid man skill. Will Johnson is coming off some injuries. We think he's right there. He and JADAE Barron are probably the next 2 corners, and pick them as far as that goes. Johnson's got good speed, smart zone defender, and he's a quality corner. JADAE Barron, he won the trophy for the best defensive back in the nation. He can play nickel, can slide inside. He's tough. He's physical. He's got great match and mirror skill, and he can play zone. Trey Amos is a guy that has terrific traits. The metrics love him in terms of his ability to stop-start, his acceleration, if he's ever separated, very sticky in man coverage with solid zone skills. Malachi Starks is primarily a safety, but he's also versatile. He can play nickel. He can play overhang. He's a physical run defender. He can get off blocks and make plays on the line of scrimmage. He can play deep safety if you need him to. He's got enough range that he can play 1 high. He's probably a little bit better at 2 high as a quarter safety coming downhill. And he's got excellent ability to mirror route breaks. He can cover inside receivers. Quality safety. He may not go as high in the draft as we might have him ranked simply because that position isn't as valued as much as corner. And there's just an awful lot of talent, in this draft as far as defensive players. But Starks is solid. So you got 5 guys up there that we really like and think are first-round picks.
Sidebar question on Travis Hunter. He's wiry, he's athletic, he's fast, he's obviously skilled. He's got great grit. I mean, to play as many snaps as he played on both sides of the football, do they have to? Can they put more size and bulk on him? Because how does he hold up in the NFL?
Well, I think you could put a little bit more on him for sure, but you don't want to do anything to take away some of his skill set. But you want to make sure he's strong, make sure his functional strength is up to speed, and you want him to be durable. And so far, he's been that. So we'll have to see what happens. You'd like him to be bigger, but you certainly, you're not going to make him taller. So you're going to have to put a little more muscle mass on him and make sure it doesn't affect his ability to change directions because he's elite, when it comes to that. He's a smooth mover, fluid in space, both in offense and defense.
Jon Cooper, Our Lad's Draft Guide, one of their editors with us here on a special NFL draft preview. Jon, closer to home, the Chargers had a great draft last year with Joe Hickson as their new general manager. You've got a situation with the Rams where they've been brilliant with this combination of Les Snead and Sean McVay, and you got the new leadership with the Raiders, Pete Carroll, John Spytek, and Tom Brady's influence. What do you think the Bolts, the Rams, and the Silver and Black are going to do come first-round draft day?
Well, the Rams are the toughest one for us to look at, as far as that goes. They've got the needs that they all have, in terms of what they might want. The Chargers, I think, are a little bit easier, to figure out. The Rams need offensive line help. That's something that's critical. They could also use a linebacker, somebody that can play off the ball and can get downhill and thump. That's important to them. We're not sure, how good some of these guys that they've got on their depth chart right now are. It wouldn't hurt them to have another edge defender for that type of defense that they play. But, they've got some issues in the offensive line, we think that they're going to have to address. And there's some guys out there that they'll be able to get, in the first round. As far as the Chargers are concerned, they could go a lot of different ways. They could go tight end because they like to play 12 personnel. They like the power game. If Loveland happens to be sitting there, former Michigan player, I could see that as a pick. They could go wide receiver, somebody, to go along with, McConkey and Williams. Quentin Johnson got a lot better last year. So, that's a consideration because they could go a lot of different ways. A defensive lineman, some people think Kenny Grant is the guy, a big physical interior defensive tackle, would be a nice pick. And there's another Michigan guy, that might fit with them. So, those are some guys that, we've kind of looked at in different mock drafts. We've done 3 or 4 of those. And those are all possibilities. The silver and black, if they can get ASHTON JEANTY, I think they'll jump. They would like to have another running back, I think. And I think he makes a lot of sense if he's there. The quarterback position, people are saying, hey, they might, like another quarterback they can develop. Maybe one of those guys down the line is a possibility. They could use some help in the secondary too, both at safety and at corner. Some people have starts mocked to them too, so or one of the corners. So that's kind of the way we see it. They all have needs, and there's a lot of good players out there, so it's going to be best player available at a position of need when their turn comes.
Final question for you. There's always somebody that shows up that becomes something special. I guess I call it the Brock Purdy draft type pick. Which of the quarterbacks do you think that might go in the second round or maybe even in the third round is going to turn out to be a "aren't you glad you took me" type quarterback?
It's a hard one to predict. The 4 quarterbacks that we've talked about, you can even say that maybe MILROE and Dart are in that category. Some of the other guys that, that are out there, McCord, is a guy that we kind of like as one of those guys that's kind of a sleeper. It's hard to believe that he's a sleeper, but Will Howard came on at Ohio State, after learning the system, and he was absolutely phenomenal down the stretch. Now, granted, he had some really, really good players around him, but a lot of people aren't talking about him, and they're partly is because he played for Ohio State and they're good and they don't need him. You know what I mean? But that said, he really came on. He has good arm strength. He's big. He's not going to necessarily make plays with his feet, but he's not a slouch either. He's strong, and he got a good arm. He gets the ball outside the numbers real well. He's inconsistent, but he was consistent those last 4 games. So he's a guy. He's a possibility at that position.
Spectacular job. Again, if you like the NFL draft, there's still time for you to place your order. Our Lads Draft Guide. Just go to ourlads.com. 122 pages of information. Once you subscribe, they'll get you the PDF file. You won't believe the content, whether it's about your favorite NFL team or your favorite university, and the rankings from top to bottom, who's hot, who's got something to prove. It's just a unique publication. Just go to ourlads.com. And John, you guys are also doing something on YouTube. Just explain how that works.
We have a YouTube channel, Our Lads Football. And, we do podcasts on there. We did a mock draft this morning that was live, and it's going to be, you'll be able to see that between one of our other scouts. I'm the associate general manager, so I work with, Dave Syverson, who's a senior scout. And Dave and I have been there a while. And so Dave and I and Greg DePalma, Greg is the host those podcasts, and I'm not on them very often. It's usually Dave, doing things, and Greg he gets a lot of insiders on, and so you can watch those on our YouTube channel by subscribing to that, or just going on YouTube and finding them. And we've got content on. We're going to put a little more on there before the draft, and there'll be some post-draft analysis too as well.
Good stuff. Jon, we always appreciate the time out of your busy schedule. We hope to hook up with you post-draft after you take a deep breath, and we'll just kind of do an evaluation in the Our Lads report card. As always, sir, great to have you on board. Thanks again.
Thanks for having me. Those post-drafts are always fun.
Jon Cooper, Our Lads Draft Guide. We invite you to subscribe. That's the first half of our podcast. We take a break. When we come back, John Riley will join us with his opinions from left field. Hacksaw's headlines just around the corner. Thanks for being with us. Hope you enjoyed our NFL draft preview.
Join us again for Hacksaw's Headlines on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. And find the audio version on your favorite podcast apps. For more content, go to LeeHacksawHamilton.com.